Sound off time now. Every day on Live at 3, we tackle one of the day's big issues with the guy you know, our colleague from News Radio 620 WTMJ, Jeff Wagner.
It was big news this morning, an unprecedented series of penalties against Penn State University. The NCAA handed down a $60 million fine, a 4-year ban on all postseason play for the football program, the loss of scholarships, and the opportunity for players to transfer out of that football program immediately. This brings us to today's sound-off question. Is Penn State's punishment enough?
Now, this wasn't the so-called death penalty that the NCAA has administered, for example, to SMU. That would be a penalty that would essentially end the football program. Like back in the 80s, they did that to SMU, said no football program for 2 years, and SMU has probably never recovered. Having said that, these are clearly very devastating penalties, but is it sufficient? Let's start with Ed in Glendale.
Penn State's punishment certainly isn't enough. They should have been restrained from any athletic endeavors in any sport for a period of 8 to 10 years. The corruption in these athletic programs on the college level at Marquette a year ago, at Penn State now, just indicates that we are watching the end of big-time athletics in America.
I just feel bad for the other athletes,
right,
because they're the ones that really end up with the short stick, even though they had nothing to do with it.
Well, right, and especially, I mean, a lot of this misconduct, I mean, occurred years and years ago, which isn't to, explain it away or trivialize it, but, what about the kid that, went to Penn State in, 2010 to play football? His only sin was he was recruited by, Joe Paterno. Here's Joanne in Racine.
This is a good punishment, but I do think that they should be banished from the NCAA or top 10 for at least 10 years.
I think this is going to have a very devastating long-term impact on the team. Some people are saying the death penalty is what's required here. I think this is almost as bad. 4 years.
Oh yeah, I mean, try to recruit.
No postseason play.
Right. Try to recruit.
That's going to last for 8 years.
I agree. I agree they need to be punished. But the sad thing is all these people that were involved are gone now. So you got everybody remaining who weren't involved in a cover-up, and they pay the price. That's the only thing that's hard to swallow in all this.
But I mean, I guess they are sending a message to programs that there's going to be consequences. And I mean, I think that's what this is. And one of the other conditions is normally when athletes transfer, there's a requirement that they have to sit out a year, which discourages athletes from transferring. That is, as we were talking about, Steve was mentioning, that doesn't apply either. So I mean, my guess is mass exodus from the football program, which goes back to the point you were making, Steve. It really probably does devastate it. Here's Mary Ellen in Milwaukee.
Punishment will never be enough if you're a victim, and that's understandable, but it definitely is significant. And if they have to go through all of that, maybe then Penn State will learn football is only a game.
There was one point of the punishment directly aimed at Joe Paterno and his legacy. They wiped out all of his wins going back to '98. Joe Paterno was the winningest coach in Division I football history.
Legacy now.
Now he's number 12. They took all those wins away. Was that too much?
No, I mean, I don't think this is a big deal. I mean,
if other universities don't pay attention to this,
oh my gosh, yeah,
and choose to follow the same path if something's going on, I mean, I don't know how clearer of a message you could send to everybody else.
All right, and there's a lot of cash involved too. I mean, some people were saying, some big what was it, 60 million?
60 million. It's a year's revenue from the football program.
Right. I mean, some people were saying, that's just a couple, big donors that can come up. No, I mean that's a lot of dough. These are clearly huge sanctions, and I think it reflects the fact that everybody recognizes that Penn State was real wrong for a long period of time.
Let's do a couple of quick Facebook comments before we end the topic here.
Tim from Oconomowoc writes, Big Ten should remove them from the conference. This is a black eye to them as well.
Barbara writes, it's ridiculous. Most of the people involved are not even at the school anymore. If you want to fine them, fine, but to punish innocent students who will lose their chance at a decent education is not right.
Beth chimes in, I think this sends the right message that wins will not be honored at the expense of the innocent. And that's it for the topic. Obviously, we're going to be talking